Over the course of 2 days in Tokyo, I ate some amazing food and saw some incredible sights. I dined at the Michelin Starred Ginza Toyoda and feasted on a stunning tasting menu. I also had amazing fried sandwiches from Age 3, next level coffee from Bongen, plus I bought a watch and did so much more. My day started in Osaka as I took a morning train to Tokyo. Once I arrived to Tokyo Station, lunch was on my mind, so I headed to the Ginza area of the city to stop at a restaurant that I meant to go to during the first part of my trip, Age 3. The establishment serves fried sandwiches and is incredibly popular. I got in line as soon as I arrived and was given a menu. Age 3 serves both sweet and savory sandwiches. Frankly, everything looked great and I was having trouble deciding. Thankfully, the line moved quite efficiently and I was soon at the counter placing my order. I got an egg and Neapolitan sandwich and the chicken nanban. Both of them look so good. I started with the egg and Neapolitan sandwich, which is basically a sandwich filled with pasta and topped with a runny egg. While it wasn't the easiest thing to eat, the sandwich was incredible. The fried pieces of bread cradling the pasta and egg made for a textural and flavorsome delight. The chicken nanban sandwich was just as good, and my return to Tokyo was off to a great start. Next, I needed my caffeine hit, so I went to the nearby Bongen Coffee, which is one of the best and most famous coffee shops in Tokyo. When I arrived, it didn't seem like there was much of a line, but it still took around a half hour for me to get my coffee. Bongen moves slow, but everything is made with care and precision. Plus, the baristas hand deliver the beverages to the customers waiting outside, which I thought was a nice touch. I really liked the Japanese aesthetics of the coffee shop, which was small but sleek. In terms of the menu, you pretty much have your typical options, but I got a drink that sounded a bit more unique. I got the Bongen Rich Latte. Basically, it's a latte with a higher concentration of espresso compared to your typical latte. I even got to choose the particular espresso blend to incorporate into the drink. I ended up going with the original dark roast, and I felt like that was a fine choice. That latte was strong, but oh so good.
Boy, is this latte strong. It really hits, and it hits in the best possible way. This is fantastic.
After getting nice and caffeinated, it was time to check into my hotel. I stayed at the Hotel Wing International Shimbashi-Onarimon. Location-wise, it wasn't as good as my first Tokyo hotel up in Ginza, but the room was nice. Like many hotels in Japan, it was small, but comfortable. Plus, the hotel's lobby even had a beer vending machine. However, I had no time to relax with a beer. There were things to do and places to see. So I headed to what is probably the most famous landmark of Tokyo, Tokyo Tower. The structure is a communications and observation tower that was constructed between 1957 and 1958. It was clearly inspired by the Eiffel Tower and became a symbol of the country's post-war recovery. In terms of its ticketing options, there were a few different offerings. I went with the top deck tour, which is definitely what I would recommend. First, I went up to the main deck, which certainly provided some nice views, but at only 490 feet high, you frankly only see so much, as the modern skyscrapers of Tokyo soar far higher. With the top deck tour ticket, I was allowed access to the much higher observation deck, which reaches a height of about 819 feet. I went to a second elevator on the main deck to access it, and was even given a small drink, which was pretty much just a sip of white wine. Plus, I even got a free souvenir with my picture on it. As I made it to the top deck, I knew pretty quickly that spending the extra money on the costlier ticket was worth it. The views were extraordinary. I felt like I was at the tower at the perfect time of the day, since as the sun set, the scenes before me were constantly changing. Going to Japan was always at the top of my bucket list, and to see it bathed in such beauty was a true joy, as it wasn't from the pixelated images off of a computer screen or through social media posts, but through my eyes. I was living my dream, and I couldn't have been happier. I spent a great deal of time at Tokyo Tower and took hundreds of photos, but soon enough it was time for dinner. I went to a spot near my hotel called Miko Shokudo, which is a standing seafood bowl restaurant. I ordered a large size of their signature Miko seafood bowl, and it looked great. There was everything from sea urchin to scallops within the dish. All of the fish were very tasty, except one that seemed to have the texture of rubber, but other than that, it was a great bowl. Plus, the restaurant also offers unlimited tea and soup, and I kind of fell in love with the woman passing out the bowls. Overall, I really enjoyed Miko Shokudo. It was a satisfying meal to cap off a great day in Tokyo. It was a fine morning in Tokyo, and I had big plans, but first, I needed my coffee. I went to Kizasu Coffee, which oddly seems to have the feel of being built in a garage. Nevertheless, I found that they serve good coffee and donuts. I certainly enjoyed my breakfast. Soon enough, I set out for Ginza, one of Tokyo's top shopping districts and the home of Seiko. I wanted to buy a watch. I knew that I wanted to commemorate my trip with a special souvenir, and a watch felt like the perfect choice. Browsing the offerings at Seiko Dream Square, I knew that I wanted a Seiko 5 GMT, but what I was debating was which particular model I would purchase. I ended up buying the SSK 001 version. I loved the look of the dark black dial and the pop of red from the GMT hand. For me, that's more than a watch. It represents my time in Japan, a place that I've wanted to go to for decades. When I look at that watch on my wrist, I not only see the time, but I'm reminded of my trip and the fact that dreams come true. I was no doubt excited about my new purchase, but the day was just getting started as I had a reservation for lunch at the Michelin Starred Ginza Toyoda. However, I was a bit confused at first because when I arrived to the restaurant's address, Ginza Toyoda's sign wasn't written in English but Japanese, so I had to look up to make sure I was going to the right place. Soon enough, I knew where to go and was walking up a flight of stairs to the restaurant. Ginza Toyoda serves Kappo cuisine, which is a Japanese style of cooking that features a multi-course meal that is left entirely up to the chef. For 18 consecutive years, Ginza Toyoda has maintained a Michelin star. No doubt about it, I was excited, but also a little nervous. While I previously dined at the 2 Michelin-starred Fleuillage in Tokyo and the 3 Michelin-starred Taiyan in Osaka, those were different. They're restaurants that are widely known and thus bring in tourists. With Ginza Toyoda, I was the only non-Japanese person in the restaurant at the time, and things felt a bit formal, so I didn't film as much compared to what I usually do. Still, Ginza Toyoda is a nice looking establishment with a gorgeous wooden counter and a few tables. Thankfully, I was given an English menu so I could follow along when each course was presented. All I had to decide on was what to drink. After spending about $400 on a watch, I didn't want to spend too much. Luckily, there was a nice sounding 3 kinds of sake comparison which went for about 11 bucks. I found all 3 sakes pleasant, and it was nice enjoying them side by side as I was able to more appreciate the nuances between them. Plus, I also appreciated just how beautiful and unique each sake glass was. Soon enough, it was time for the first course, and it was an interesting one. The dish featured scallops, canola flour with mustard dressing, seaweed, red radishes, and stock jellies. I liked it. The scallops were nice and the flavors worked. Plus, the use of jellies in that manner isn't something that I'm used to, and I thought it was good. Next up was a small dish containing young dried sardines with soybeans and Japanese pepper on top of steamed sticky rice. That was a good one as well. I just loved the saltiness of the sardines. Following that was a soup course. The dish contained a kaga lotus root starch dumpling, daikon, and yuzu. I thought that it was a good soup. It was earthy and comforting. Next was the sashimi course, which featured tuna and flounder. I found both of the fish to be very pleasant and fresh. Plus, the accompaniments worked well. After the sashimi was perhaps the most impressive course of the meal. Presented nicely on a gorgeous plate was a deep-fried monkfish. There was also octopus along with snap peas and Brussels sprouts topped with a moromi miso dressing. I loved that dish, especially the monkfish, which proved to be one of the best things I ate during that lunch. It was perfectly fried and tender. The octopus was nice as well, along with the Brussels sprouts. Following that was a pleasant course of herring, taro, spinach, and ginger. Once again, that was a good dish. The herring was very tasty and the taro was pleasantly soft. Next was sadly the final savory course of the meal. The dish consisted of kettle-cooked rice with seasonal food. There was also Japanese pickled vegetables and a miso soup. The course was much simpler from the previous offerings, but everything was tasty and delightful. It was also during this time that I was given some nice tea. After finishing, it was on to dessert. First up was a cup of a very pleasant matcha tea. In addition, there was a delightful strawberry encased in mochi, which was absolutely incredible. Finally, it was time for the last course, and that meal certainly ended with a bang. The dish consisted of oranges with a white wine sauce and jelly. I loved that one. It was perfectly balanced and supremely sweet. After finishing, it was time for the bill. Since I already paid for the food when I made my reservation, all I had to pay for at the moment was the sake. With the food and beverages combined, that lunch sent me back 13,920 yen, which equated to be about 94 bucks, and I thought that was a deal.
So I just finished lunch at Ginza Toyoda and I absolutely loved it. It was delightful. In a certain sense, it was kind of nice paying in advance. Now, I always am a bit anxious about doing that because I always feel like there will be some misfortune that will happen to me, causing me to miss my lunch and lose my money. But at the end of the day, when I had to pay that bill and I only had to pay for my drinks, which wasn't much at all, it felt pretty good. To put it plainly, that was a very satisfying lunch.
Next, I wanted to do some sightseeing. Since I just bought a Seiko watch, I thought that it was only fitting to check out the Seiko Museum. The institution not only showcases the history of the brand, but timekeeping in general. As a watch lover and Seiko fan, I really enjoyed the museum. It was nice to see all the gorgeous watches on display, especially the Grand Seikos and Cradors. I even feel that if one isn't interested in watches, it's a place that's worth checking out if you're in the area, especially because it's free. After the museum, I needed my caffeine hit, so I went back to Bongen, specifically because I also wanted to purchase a souvenir mug along with my coffee. However, the line was 4 times the size of what it was when I went the previous day, and considering I waited a half hour for coffee with far less people, there was no way I was going to stick it out for who knows how long. As a result, I decided to check out Coffee RIN instead. Over the course of my time in Japan, I got to try many sleek, modern, and minimalist cafes. Coffee RIN, however, was the opposite. It was classic, it was warm and cozy, with plenty of stuff decorating the shop. To drink, I got a simple coffee, which was of course made fresh. The beverage certainly hit the spot. I also got a small snack. I ordered a slice of baked cheesecake and it was a delight. In addition, I did a bit of reading and in general enjoyed a relaxing time at Coffee RIN. Later in the day, I went to the Akihabara area of Tokyo with the intention of buying souvenirs. Soon enough, it was time for dinner, and after having such light and delicate cuisine at Ginza Toyoda, I wanted something heartier. So I dined at a location of Tenkaippin, a popular Japanese ramen chain. I was hungry, so I ordered a hell of a lot of food. I got a set that included fried rice, karaage, and ramen with a rich broth. All of the food was pretty good, although the broth of the ramen I felt was just a bit too dense. Still, it was a satisfying meal and a nice conclusion to 2 great days in Tokyo.